Hiya! I've been really busy lately making some picture frames. Look, this one here I made using embossing powder. So pretty, isn't it? And this one here I left plain, no embossing powders, no varnishes, just so that I could simply show you the base that I use, a card, and then I can decorate the card however I want. This one I left plain. This one I made into a beautiful heart. I used embossing powders underneath and then gemmed it up. My pretty little cocoa. Same thing but round. I haven't given this one a back yet. I think a gem just dropped, you know. It did. Really pretty. This can be either hung on a wall or make a stand. This one I used that sort of idea. And then these ones I used ribbon. And look, looks like a tag. And then they just sit like that. But it works absolutely great, and then you can't lose the piece because we're using a piece of ribbon on it. This is the card I've chosen to make with you today. Very simple, very pretty. Before we actually get making it, let's show you some of the pieces we're going to need. You're going to need some Backham grey board. This is 1.5mm thick, so it's a little bit stiffer than what we're going to be using for the front. Let me show you, where is it? Hidden under here somewhere. There it is. Now this grey board for the front here is 1mm thick, just slightly thinner, easier to move around. We're also going to want some coloured card there to think then, you know. This is about 200 GSM thick, and that's why I've got the colour in. So you can actually use any colour. I just chose to use black. Now I am using these dies. You don't have to use dies as long as you know your measurements. Now this is 15 centimetres high and 10 centimetres wide. And this one is, I can't remember, so let's quickly give it a measure. It's 11 high, 11.5 high, 6.5 wide. And this will be used to create our frame with the card. We have to do two of these for basic coverage like that. And then I cut two little pieces, not the best cut, so you can be as perfect as you wish when you cut these. Now these look a little bit like tags. Now I haven't cut the length in because it depends on how high we add them up the card to how we cut them. I think that's pretty much it, you know. Our ribbon and glue. You need your glue. Now I like the clear PVA glue, but you can use your white as long as it's pretty strong. Oh, let's get to it, shall we? Make our pretty frame together. Never comes off when it's stuck. Let's get our vampire of 2022 watching us over there. I'm going to move a lot of this out of the way now. Place it over there. Now I actually purchased some A4 grey board. Like I said, it's 1.5mm thick. And what I'm going to do is place my die. Now, like I said before, you don't have to use a die. If you don't, you can simply measure around something, or using a ruler to get your square or rectangle, whatever shape you want. Now I need to just quickly do a basic measurement so I know what size I want. Let me quickly cut around this. And come all the way up. So stiff. Sometimes I have to get a little bit of help with the cutting. I'm okay today. It's quite thick, isn't it? Now I'm running mine. I want to use my die to get mine. To be right back. I'm now going to cut another one using my 1mm thick grey board for my front. I do try to purchase recycled. Makes it a little bit of a smelly card at first, to be fair. I even have to sometimes keep it in a bag. Can be a bit smelly, the recycled. But it's always good to do your bit, isn't it? Or try to. And if we can't do that, that says a lot, doesn't it? Do a little bit for our beautiful, beautiful planet. Okay. Now I'll be right back. And here's my front. Just quickly pick it out of here. Lot quicker. Lot quicker. Now then, so here's the first stage of creating our front. Perfect. So let's put the back aside for a moment. And now what you're going to do is try and measure here, because our frame, this frame here, is 2 centimetres by 2 centimetres. You've got to try and keep that at 2 centimetres by 2 centimetres. Let's just have a quick peek. Approximately. I believe so. I believe that's exactly what I want. And then what we're going to do is tape it. Let me just check again. So you put a little piece on the inside, not this piece, because that's the frame. This piece here will be discarded. I'm going to get another little piece of tape across the bottom. You're going to want to repeat this process twice, not once on this and once on your black card. So you may wish to check your measurements once you've done it. I'm going to check it by my template. Yes, I'd say that's averagely the same. And I'm going to run it through my machine. I'll keep that tape there because I'm going to want it again in a moment. Now we're going to want to do this. So we're going to get our larger silver die and cut our frame, base frame. But this goes on the outside because we want this piece. Put that here and run it through my machine. like before, you're going to want to average do the 2 centimetres by 2 centimetres. Now if you really want to, I'm going to quickly show you a quick little tip. Let's get something, I'll give it a corner here and a corner here. So we can take that away. You've got a basic guide of where to place your die. Make sure you're straight. In the middle, remember, discarding this piece. That's going to be our frame. We're going to run that through the machine. And there we have it. So now we have our front and our back. Now what we're going to do is quickly cut these. Now as you can see, we want that little piece of card in here. So you're going to choose the thicker card from the back because you do need it a little bit thicker. Very simple. You just cut a piece off. And get my other board. Right. You don't have to go too wide. Average 2 centimetres maybe. Actually I think I did that 4 centimetres approximately. So it's coming down here. That's 4. So it's come down. So we have to give it a bit of a push. Now the length, I think until you decide what it is, it's quite relevant. So just give it a, but make sure it's averagely 5 at first, because you can decide on that at the end. Right, this is going to be used for your board bit. And this bit's here, you're going to take another 2, let's say 2 centimetres approximately. Not very straight there, is it? Let's straighten that up first. Okay, if you don't chop your finger off. Right. 2 centimetres averagely. And the tricky piece is actually the next piece. Should have done it with a bigger piece really. You know what I'm going to do? Use this piece first. Click to this. Now you're just going to want to create a little gap in the middle really. So let's say 2 in the middle, 2 in the middle. You see what I'm doing? Little piece here, little piece here. Now what you've got to do is slowly dig this out. Shouldn't be too difficult, be careful with your fingers. As a crafter, I'm sure you're an expert with this sort of thing. Fantastic way of making gifts for family, don't you think? You can actually create very similar things to as Christmas tree decorations and Christmas tags. Imagine Christmas tags with family photos in them. That would be different and very, very nice. Nothing more precious than time, is there? You put your time into making something for somebody you love. Most precious thing you can give. There you go, it's not quite in the middle. Let's make it a little bit longer then, shall I? Don't be scared of making your own little adjustments, experimenting along the way. That's what a lot of crafting is, isn't it? Experimenting. I'll just pick it out. Do a little bit on the back. Right, that'll do. That will do. Now the tag that we made here, ready. I call them tags because that's actually what they look like. You're going to want to make sure it goes at least inside that gap there. So it doesn't matter. That piece, there you go. Notice that isn't quite straight. Bit better. Right, and then you're just going to, you can just use a pair of scissors here and just snip it off. Snip it off. Try and make sure they're a little bit averagely the same. That wasn't that great, was it? But you know what? We're here to show you how to make it work. That fits in fine. Perfect. Okay. I'm now going to stick my little piece on the back of our card. The backing for our frame. And I think I'm going to want it about centre. And this will decide the length of our tag backing in a moment. But first, let's stick this down. Try and get it straight as you can and central. That's about where I want it. Now, as you can see, my board is just slightly longer than the backing. So what I'm going to do is just give it a little average line and take that off while it's drying. So I get it straight as I can. Just about that. And give it a cut. Average is not quite straight here, is it? So you could make it one if you want to make it look straighter. You could do. Looks a bit better, doesn't it? Once we've fixed this, let's now actually start. We're going to want to do our ribbon, and I'm going to start by sticking a piece here, averagely down the middle. So plenty of glue on. And you're going to stick a ribbon on it there, and then we're going to bridge it. Now I happen to have a little piece here from cutting these. And what I'm going to do is just put a piece of glue all along and bridge it along the bottom. Oops, try and make it central. Make sure it's level to the bottom and not over. Don't worry about excess glue too much. You can always just dab that up with a piece of tissue. Not sure where mine is. Right, now this piece, what you're going to want to do is measure the length of your tag. You're going to want going to bring it to here, approximately. So you're going to think almost the length of your tag to the points here. Keep your finger there averagely. And bring it to the end here. I have to think for a minute. So here. And what we're going to need is another little bridge. You're going to just cut a piece off. Grab some glue. And place it just there. And just do a quick little test to make sure it isn't too long. Right. Now the idea is we've got a taut piece of ribbon, nice and tight when we're using it. We don't want it a saggy piece of ribbon in the middle, now do we? Nice and tight. Make sure your card is kept above the level so it does not prevent the stand of your item. Now I'm going to add a little piece more glue underneath here. So I'll put that in the frame. Give it a little dab down. I'm going to cut this excess piece off now. And just allow that to dry. Now while that's drying, smooth that, I can be doing the front. Smooth that out of the way. And bring in my front. Now this is simple. We're going to stick this to this. Then you can decide however you want to decorate it, if you do. Thing is with this flat card is be careful with glue marks or anything, because it can even scratch very easily. But I'm going to be embossing that, so it doesn't matter too much. You might be able to hear my Coco snoring in the background. Apply plenty of glue, especially around the edges. I find this wet glue much better than spray glue for this sort of job. If I was making card, I'd use the spray glue. Let me get a little bit of tissue ready. Do a bit of dabbing and tidying up. Now we're going to place our card over. Like that. Now our black frame is dry, I'm going to decorate it with some Paper Mania embossing powder. This is black sparkle, and that's what I used for my frame here. Oops, I can hear my neighbours. I hope you can't. Right, let's get to it, shall we? I'm going to give it a good covering, like so, all the way round, to make sure you give it a good covering. Ready for this. Make sure it's nice and sticky before we apply our powder. I think I've got enough now, so I think I'm ready to apply my black sparkle embossing powder. I'm going to put plenty on all the way around. Look at that. Pretty. Put that aside. Remove this. I'll get this back in my pot. I'm now going to use my heating tool on the picture frame. Make sure it's nice and warm. Doesn't take a minute. Work it all the way around. I think I've done it all the way around. I'm happy with that. Yes, very happy with that. Once that's dried enough, we're going to just stick that down to complete our picture frame. Move that out of the way, and that one. Let's go back and collect our back. Now it's dry. Look, you can see, if I do it from the side, the ribbon is quite tight really. Can you see that? Like a triangle. That's what we're hoping for. It's so that you don't lose it. They just stay together. Now then, for sticking this, you want to make sure this is dry properly though, because it could be a bit tacky, because you're going to want to add pressure on the top of this, because what we need to do is glue all the way around the edges, but not the top, so that you'll be able to then place your photo inside. If you wish, you could place a photo in and then glue it all in, but then you will not be able to change your photo. So take that into consideration. Oh, shall we get to that one? Get gluing. Try and get a weight ready for once you've done this piece, because you're going to want to place it on the top like something like that, and you're going to want to place it on the top to weigh it down, to help all of it to stay on the edges for a firm grip. You'll see why, because of the card. It's quite rigid, and you will definitely need that extra weight on top while it is drying. I actually use my penny jar, but I'm showing you with a little weight. Right, let's get gluing. Now make sure you've got this all out of the way, including your ribbon. Right out of the way, you don't want any glue on that. I'm actually going to take the top off this. Do not go right across the top, you can go right from the edge, go along the edge and keep it to the edge. All the way around. Put plenty on, because that will spread. Oops. Once you're happy with the amount that you've applied around the edges, you grab your frame, you place it on the top where you want it. And get some tissue ready to remove so it doesn't come over onto the top of your pretty embossed work. Well, and the ribbon, you want to make sure you keep that clear from glue too, really. Or design, it should work still, even if you do get a bit of glue on it. Now, this is the tricky bit, because once you've got it in place, is when you're going to want to get something on the top. Remember what I was saying about getting it weighed down or something while it is drying. Once you are happy with its placing, that is, you get it all and push it in down. Make sure it's all, especially on the bottom as well. Push it all down around the edges, just around the edges. And you're pushing out that excess glue at the same time. Just give it a wipe off. Top two corners. Now you're going to hold that while you've got your whatever it is in place. Try and get that in without moving it. And your weight. And try and get as much weight, especially on the corners here, as you can. And every now and again come round and push along the edges. Give it a good couple of hours to dry, and then come back and take it all off and see what you've made. Before I forget, it's quite important to go around with like a pin, or maybe even your crafter's blade, and just check and make sure the edge is clear, so that this glue underneath hasn't spread all the way around. Otherwise you won't be able to get your picture inside. So just go around all the edges and make sure there's a little space underneath your frame, but make sure it's nice and tight on the edges. Still make sure you keep pressing on the edges all around. Keep going all the way around while it is drying. My glue that you saw me apply spread a little bit too far. I'd actually applied a little too much, so I had to unstick it here at the bottom so that my picture will get in when I'm done. I'm just waiting for it to dry now, and then we can put our picture inside. But the frame itself is actually made. It's all drying, but done. you'll get yours that will look like that. If you've made one, let me know how it's come along. Stick a picture in the comments if you can. Be nice to know how others have come out. Now all my frame is dry, all the way around, I can add my picture. I'm going to use an old picture of myself and my youngest daughter. Slide that in. All the way down. And there we have it. The picture. Before I go, I wanted to show you how I created this. A simple backing for hanging a picture. But it's also a good idea if you've got any old broken picture frames and you want to still hang them. This is simple to make, using a little bit of elastic and a piece of card with 2 holes either end that you have threaded your elastic through as such, giving a knot on the other end, and then you put it over the edge like this and stick it to your card, the back of your card to the back of your picture, and weigh it down while it dries, and then afterwards you'll simply be able to take it off like that. Don't hang it too high. If you hang it like whenever your picture is, make it look like this. Thought I'd quickly also show you this one, just by adding it on here. That's one piece of ribbon, simply crossed over. Let me think how I did this now. That's it. Like such. So let's say this is just a small one on the back. Do like to cross over a little bit. We add a little bit of glue and hold it like that. It wasn't going to come out. So a little bit there and a little bit there and a little bit all the way around. That's it. You just stick it where you want it, really. Best out in the middle. Hang on, let's make sure I haven't got this picture upside down. So I want it straight to that. Let's turn it round. Yeah. Now all you've got to do is let that dry. Actually, I put a little bridge on there too, didn't I? Just to give it that extra bit of strength. Extra little bridge just underneath. Just 2 ways of rescuing any picture frame, or just creating them. Try and make sure it's central. Give a little push. And done. I have thoroughly enjoyed making these picture frames with you. Thank you for viewing. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. And until next time, bye.